Today's episode is sponsored by I Know What You Did Last Summer. Get it now on digital. When 5 friends inadvertently cause a deadly car accident, they cover up their involvement and make a pact to keep it a secret rather than face the consequences. A year later, their past comes back to haunt them, and they're forced to confront a horrifying truth. Someone knows what they did last summer and is hell-bent on revenge. As one by one, the friends are stalked by a killer. They discover this happened before, so they turn to 2 survivors of the legendary Southport Massacre of 1997 for help. Starring Madeline Klein, Chase Sue Wonders, Jonah Hauer King with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a perfect summer slasher, says Jordan Cruciolo of NPR. Your summer is not over yet. Don't miss a killer movie night at home. This week's episode is sponsored by Together, now available to rent or buy on digital. Together stars Dave Franco and Alison Brie in an unforgettable epic horror that Bloody Disgusting calls a wild crowd pleaser that will leave you laughing and screaming in equal measure. Watch Together, the breakout horror movie of the year, at home. Buy or rent today.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Hello, and welcome to Scare You to Sleep. I'm your host, Shelby Novak, and I'm here to read you some true stories sent in by your fellow listeners. I do want to preface this episode with a little warning. This batch I received a few true stories with very heavy themes, so please check the bottom of the show notes for trigger warnings. This first submission is from the lovely Nadia. On October 7th, a terrible mistake was made. My friend Randy had accidentally killed himself playing Russian roulette with a stolen gun in the bedroom of our friends Jen and Susan. Jen and Susan shared a room. They lived with their mom Polly and her meth head boyfriend Raoul in an apartment complex. It was the kind of house where no adults cared, so we could do whatever we wanted. Susan was in the room with him when the shot rang out, so she ran into the closet behind her. When his body landed, it had obstructed the door, leaving her trapped in there until the police came 10 minutes later. The thing no one tells you or prepares you for when things like this happen: it's not the responsibility of the cops to clean up the mess. After Randy's body was taken, it was up to myself and my other friends to clean the aftermath. This is a whole other story, one I am not telling today and probably never. Today I am telling the story of what happened 22 days later, on Halloween night. We were all going into the woods that evening for a keg party and a giant bonfire. as was the tradition with small-town or rural teenagers in America before iPhones. I was meeting my ride at Jen and Susan's to leave from there. A few friends had gathered early to pre-party, but I just wasn't able to spend time there anymore. Upon arriving, I came to learn that everyone had just dropped acid 10 minutes before I got there. I was furious, as that meant I had to be in that house longer to wait for someone not high on drugs to take us to the party and be the only sober person around a bunch of psychedelic chuckleheads. Just when I thought nothing could be worse, one by one, everyone started to have bad acid trips. Kyle locked himself in the bathroom and kept repeating, "Randy, boom, dead, gone," while our other friend Jason lay on the floor crying and shaking violently. As the only sober person there, I was trying to keep everyone calm until we could all leave to somewhere with less geopsychological trauma. I was on the floor trying to do breathing exercises with Jason when I looked up to the hallway and saw Randy, or at least a shadowy version of my recently departed friend, walking towards me. He looked like he could have been laughing or crying. There was no sound, but a strained look on his face. He wasn't transparent or ghostly in a way I would expect, but instead seemed a bit like a dark cloud that was also a human. Before I could react, I was distracted by the sound of Susan screaming and collapsing to the floor right behind me. One moment later, other friends had come into the house and we were tending to Susan. With all the hectic aftermath of that evening, it took me another 2 weeks before I could ask Susan why she had screamed that night and what made her collapse. When I finally did ask, she started to tear up and said, "I saw Randy." Thank you so much, Nadia, for sharing that tale. Very heavy, but it gave me goosebumps and just wow. I hope you're all doing much better now in your grief. And oh, what a story. What a story. Thank you so much. Our next submission is from Noelle. Hi, Shelby. First off, I want to say how much I love your podcast. Thank you. Even when the stories are terrifying, your voice is oddly comforting and does lull me to sleep in the best way. I'm obsessed with the true horror segments, and while I'm definitely not the best writer, I hope these experiences give you a bit of a chill. About a year ago, I was living in a condo I rented from a relative. It had previously belonged to a sweet older couple I'd known since childhood. At first, the place felt totally normal, the occasional odd sound here or there, but nothing that raised alarms. That changed after a few months. The first real incident happened late at night. I was lying in bed with my dog, just scrolling on my phone. My roommate was already asleep since she had work the next morning. Out of nowhere, I start hearing footsteps, bare footsteps. At first, I assume it's my roommate getting up for water. But it was odd. I hadn't heard her door opening, seeing as our doors are so close to one another. I tried to brush it off, but then I hear it again. The sound of bare feet walking across the tile in the hallway. The distinct sound of skin hitting the floor with each step. The steps go past the bathroom and stop near my door, and then back down the hall again. My dog notices too. Ears perked, alert. We're both just listening. I call out to my roommate. No answer. I try to rationalize it. Maybe she's half asleep and didn't hear me. Whatever. But then it happens again. Only this time the footsteps stop directly in front of my door. And I hear the knob turn slightly. And now my dog starts growling. I'm officially freaked out. I quietly slide out of bed and peek under the door. Nothing. I open it. The hallway's empty. I check the hall bathroom, the kitchen, even softly knock on my roommate's door and ask if she's awake. Still, nothing. I go back to bed, leave the light on, and try to calm down. A minute later, more footsteps, the sound of skin. Then I hear her door handle moving. I jump up, open my door, and again, no one there. This time, I open her door and she's out cold. My dog bolts out of the room and starts sniffing around the house like he's trying to track something. But again, nothing. This continued on for about 20 minutes until I finally locked my door, left the lights on, and just hoped that was the end of it. The next evening, my roommate asks, "Hey, were you trying to get into my room last night?" I tell her I opened your door to see if you were awake, but you were already asleep. Why? She says, "Because I heard my doorknob turning at like 2 a.m. I thought it was you." But by 2 a.m., I had already passed out. That moment was both terrifying and a little validating. At least I wasn't imagining it. After that, the activity escalated, but I'll only mention a few experiences. Not long after, my boyfriend was over. We were just hanging out on the couch, laughing mid-conversation, when suddenly, loud sobbing echoes through the hallway, the same hallway the footsteps had come from. It was unmistakably coming from inside the condo. Not a neighbor, not the TV. It sounded like a woman crying her heart out, desperate, heartbroken, sobbing. It lasted maybe a minute, then stopped as suddenly as it started. The TV was already off. We checked outside, looked around the complex. Nothing, no fights, no emergency, no explanation. A few days later, as we're heading out, my roommate's TV suddenly blares at full volume. We stop mid-step and look at each other like, is she home? I knock on her door, no response. I open it and sure enough, her TV is on, blasting some random movie, and the remote is on the floor. We had the same kind of smart TV. I know how they work. You can't just accidentally trigger a movie like that, especially when no one's home. We turned it off and left, both thoroughly weirded out. But the scariest moment came one night when I was washing dishes alone. The lights were dim, and my boyfriend was in the shower. I caught a dark shape, almost like a shadow, gliding across the living room in my peripheral vision. I paused, but I tried to play it off as my imagination. Then, just as I turned back to the sink, I felt, not heard, but felt, a breath right by my ear. Like someone had whispered something, but I couldn't make out the words. The sensation was real. I jumped, spun around, thinking maybe my boyfriend was messing with me. Nope. Still in the shower. That one shook me the most. I had never felt anything like it, and I never wanted to be alone after that. My last story didn't happen in that condo, but it's something that still haunts me. I've never claimed to be psychic or anything, but I've always had weird, vivid dreams, oftentimes eerily predictive. My grandmother had the same thing. She used to dream of someone dying, and then get a phone call the next morning confirming it. I had a similar experience, dreaming of someone passing, then hearing the news the next day. But I chalked it up to coincidence. Maybe they were just on my mind that day. Then one night, I was at a party with friends. They kept talking about someone new who was coming, saying how excited they were for me to meet her. When she arrived, we all went outside to say hello. I walked up to her, shook her hand, and the second our hands touched, this thought hit me out of nowhere. You're going to die of an overdose. It was instant. It didn't feel like a guess or a fear. It just appeared in my head. I was horrified. Why would I think something like that about someone I just met? Exactly 1 week later, my friend texted me in tears. The girl had passed away from an overdose. No one had even known she had a problem. Apparently, she had taken ketamine that night and never woke up. I still think about that moment all the time. It's one of the most unexplainable and disturbing experiences I've ever had. Sorry to end on such a heavy note. I don't know what all of this means, but I hope it makes you question the world a little, the way I have. Maybe there are things we're just not meant to fully understand. Maybe the veil between worlds is thinner than we think. Thanks for taking the time to read this, Shelby. Keep doing what you're doing. Your podcast is such a unique, eerie comfort in this weird world. Noelle. Noelle, thank you so much for your story. Don't apologize for the heavy ending. Death it's inevitable, for one thing. And not every death is neat and tidy, as you've seen in these first 2 stories on the show. And I really wanted to include those because of that, everything can't be sanitized and censored and everything. So I appreciate your story so much. And they do make me, things like this do make me look at the world in a little bit of a different way. They make me question things. As I've said many times on this show, I don't contain the hubris that I have any answers for anything. It's why I'm a little bit, I can't really pin down any beliefs, and maybe that's a little sad. I don't know, maybe that's why I have the issues I do, but it's because I can't ever pin down a certain belief in anything, really, because I feel like I just don't know. I can never definitively tell even myself, not even out loud, but just within myself, like, yes, this is how it is. This is how the world works. This is how the universe works. This is how everything works. And so for that, I really appreciate stories like this because, yes, it does. It gives a few more clues into things and a little more evidence as to just the strangeness of this, I don't know, this life we're living, this universe we live in. What is life? Let's not get that deep. Let's go on to the next one. These next few are from Alice. Hi, Shelby. I have a few true stories to tell. Some are paranormal, some are real horror. For some context, I am 15 and female. My name is Alice. I live in Portland and love horror movies and such. I've only seen Megan and Five Nights at Freddy's and Nightmare on Elm Street. Alice, I'm so jealous that you have a whole world of horror movies to discover for the first time. Keep your horror movie journey going. There's so much out there. Anyway, back to Alice. Enough about me. Here are my stories. This one was from when I was 11. I was walking to 7-Eleven, then to my friend's house. In the 7-Eleven parking lot, there was this woman who was giving us the weirdest look, like she wanted us. We walked into the store to grab our slushies and left the store. We were walking to my friend's house, and we saw the woman following us. Next, we did something we never should have. We ran to my friend's house. She didn't run after us, and we lost her. We spent the next few hours playing Fortnite and eating Smarties. I will remind you that we were 11, so it was terrifying. 2. This happened when I was suffering from depression, and I was very suicidal. I have always suffered from sleep paralysis, and there has always been this shadow in my room when it happens. I swear to God, he is not a hallucination. I can sense he's there to protect me. This took place when I was seriously considering suicide, and this night I was about ready to. I had SP, sleep paralysis, and the shadow was crouched down beside me, and he whispered in my ear, "Don't do it." When I woke up, I decided not to kill myself. Thanks, Mr. Shadow, for helping me not do suicide. 3. This happened yesterday, and I still have chills. I was walking home with some boba tea, and this black truck randomly stopped by me. This man came out and asked, "Do you need a ride?" I said no and kept walking. Come on, a pretty girl like you shouldn't have to walk. Now, what I did next was crazy and maybe unnecessary, but I pepper sprayed him and ran. These are my stories. I hope you put them on the show. They're not very scary, so you don't have to. But maybe. Bye-bye. Alice, thank you for your stories. And I just want to say I am so glad you're still here. And please keep staying here. There's so many horror movies for you to see. So stay around, stick around. And you clearly have very good street smarts. You wandered through all of those real world situations with elegance and grace. And I would say that pepper spraying a creeper is not bad at all. So please stick around and keep those street smarts you so clearly have. Thank you, Alice. This next story is very interesting. You'll see why, very quickly, why it piqued my interest. This is from Greta. Hey, Shelby. I'm a long-time listener, but I get shy, and I don't like to share about myself under usual circumstances. But this story is about Scare You to Sleep. I love the show, and I support/follow you on Patreon. Thank you so much. Which will be relevant in a moment. I wanted to send this to you, even if it never makes it on the show, because I think you'll find it interesting. This is 100% true. If it's necessary to say, this story has spoilers for the episode script reading. I read through this. They're not super spoilers, but if you want to skip ahead because it does have some things about the episode script reading. If you haven't heard it yet, feel free to do that. But I promise it won't spoil the story, I don't think. Yeah. So, I listened to the show on the Patreon app because I hate commercials knocking me out of the mood. But Patreon glitches for me sometimes. I will say there's a problem with the app. There totally is. And that it can't play an episode. But then it does. Or sometimes it will play out of order. Anyway, the week that you released Lullaby on August 8th, 2025, I get new episodes on Fridays, and this was Saturday afternoon, August 9th, 2025, and I was listening to one of the creepypastas at the grocery when I went out to get in the car and have the episode switch back to the card Bluetooth. The episode wouldn't play. I got annoyed and restarted Patreon and just pushed play. Nothing happened, only static came out. Now that's weird because even when Patreon is trippy, it doesn't make static, it just doesn't play. So I'm wiggling around, even trying Spotify and other places I listen to Scare You to Sleep, and just nothing. Nada. I say, all right, the universe doesn't want me to listen to Scare You to Sleep today, and drop the phone into my lap. But as I pull out of the grocery store parking lot, the phone connects and I hear you say, "It wasn't red, it was green." At which point I hit pause because I didn't want to ruin an episode for myself. And then the phone went off the Bluetooth again and wouldn't play at all for the rest of the drive home. I just figured I had pulled up an episode I didn't remember, and I just restarted the phone. But then, on Friday, you released script reading, and I was listening to the end of Ted the Caver. I'm working my way through all the bonus content very excitedly at the same grocery store. I finished that episode and started script reading for my way home. At the very same place on the road as last week, I hear you say, "It wasn't red, it was green." Only this time, it wasn't a week before you released the episode. That was my first glitch in the Matrix, and I'm still not over it. Anyway, love the show and hope you like the story. Maybe there's a rational explanation that you did post that episode a week early and I just accessed it before anyone else because I pushed the right number of Patreon restart Spotify open buttons. Greta. Well, Greta, I did not release that episode a week early. I will let you know that. I will, every once in a blue moon, schedule an episode to come out on Patreon or the regular feed, mostly when I'm going out of town. But that one was not scheduled. So, especially not a week early. Honestly, if I schedule an episode, it's usually only a couple days early for the schedule. Like I'll if I'm out of town for, say, a convention, like this weekend, I will have this scheduled on Wednesday or Thursday, probably. On Thursday, I'll post it to schedule. but I usually never post it a whole week ahead of time to schedule. I think I've maybe done that once or twice for like the holidays. And so I don't know what happened. That's pretty crazy. I'm honored to have been a part of a glitch in the Matrix as much as I love them. So happy to be a part of one myself. I feel like I should have had a speech prepared. It's a big moment for me. And I'm sorry if it freaked you out. And thank you so much for sharing, because yes, this is 100,000% my jam, and I'm very happy to be a part of some high strangeness myself. That's really cool. But I also hope you weren't too freaked out again. Sorry. I'm just really excited. I'm very stoked about this. I'm gonna like put it on my resume. Has been a part of a glitch in the Matrix. Thank you so much, Greta. That made my day. Thank you. Our next submission is from Anna. Okay, can I just say this to all Annas and Annas out there? I don't ever know when it's Anna or Anna. Should I know by the number of N's in the middle? Is that the clue? Am I stupid? Or at least ignorant to this? Because I never know if it's Anna or Anna. And so I apologize forever and for future Annas and Annas if I say the wrong one. This one has 2 N's. Does that mean it's Anna and ANA is Anna? I don't know. I run into the same thing with Carolyn and Caroline. Because I know Carolyn, there can be like L-Y-N at the end. That's clearly Carolyn. But I've met people who spell it with the L-I-N-E. And it's not line, it's Lynn. It's Carolyn, not Caroline. We have a Caroline coming up, in fact. I ended this episode with 2 people who I can't pronounce their names properly. That's on me. Well, there's just different ways. There's another name too. There's a few others out there that I'm like, I don't want to like give the wrong, the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, basically, that whole thing. But anyway, I'm so sorry. Anna, this is from you. Hello, Shelby. I've been listening to your podcast for a little while now. I'm a big fan of horror, and finding this was like stumbling on a gold mine. My name is Anna. Probably. Or maybe it's not. And if I'm being honest, I've had a lot of supernatural stuff happen to me. I don't entirely believe in ghosts, but I've seen just a little too much to not be open-minded. This story is one I've told to just about anyone who will listen, as it's one of my favorite childhood spooks. I'm pretty sure my friends are well and sick of it by now, so I hope you'll enjoy it. When I was a kid, my family would move around a lot. We usually only spent about a year in one place. When I was 8 years old, that meant the home was currently a rental house in Hemet, California. I spent most of my life assuming what I'd experienced there was a weird dream or over-imagination, until I was talking to my mom about it last year, and she mentioned that, in her words, yeah, Hemet was super haunted. Thanks, Mom. So, about 3 different things happened in that house. The first 2 I heard from my parents, and the last thing happened to me personally. The first time my parents wondered if there was something off about the house was after my dad had left to go to work. He always waited at the bus stop, and from the bus stop, he could see into our kitchen. It was pretty common for him to call my mom while waiting for his bus, so they could talk, and she'd sometimes go into the kitchen to wave at him and blow a kiss or 2. It's hard to have realistic expectations for romance when your parents are rom-com levels of disgustingly happy together, but I digress. That morning, my mom was sitting in the living room and enjoying a morning coffee while she talked to my dad. When my dad finally reached the bus stop, he playfully told my mom, "I can see you." My mom was confused because, no, he couldn't. She was in the living room. For reference, the living room and kitchen were separated by a partial wall. The living room couch Mom was sitting on was pressed against that wall, so she was facing away from the kitchen. She got spooked, but she and my dad eventually just told themselves that he had probably been looking at the wrong house. So they tried to forget about it. Even if the excuse didn't make sense, it was better than freaking out. This leads to the second mysterious happening, again in the living room. We had a mirror hanging by the entranceway of the house. I remember dragging a chair over to that wall all the time as a kid, just so I could climb in the chair to make faces in the mirror. Anyways, my mom was standing in the entranceway when she caught a glimpse of something in the mirror. At first she thought it was her own reflection until she realized that when you look at a mirror, you usually don't see the back of your own head, especially when your hair is down and the reflection's hair is half up. And most especially not when your hair is 2 shades lighter than the reflections. For some reason, my mom just pushes experiences aside and never mentioned it for years. This, though, leads to my own experience. Like I said, I was 8 at the time. I woke up in the middle of the night and had to use the bathroom. So I went out of my room and into the hallway. My room was at the end of the hallway, so I had to walk a little ways to make it to the bathroom, which was at the very end of the hallway. The hallway opened up into the living room. In the living room, at the very end of the hallway, blocking it, I saw what I can only describe as a shadow. At first I thought it was my dad, but it wasn't right. It was shorter than my dad. Dad is a 6'3" giant. But it still seemed to somehow take up the entire end of the hallway. I was absolutely petrified, but I was also a stupid child and I had to use the bathroom really bad. So I ran as fast as I could into the bathroom. Now this is where things get messy because the version of events I told my mom in the morning is not what happened. I told my mom that I slammed the door, locked it, and hid in the shower before eventually doing my business. I did hide in the shower, but I didn't lock the door. I didn't even shut it. Instead, I hunched in the doorway of the bathroom, waiting to be attacked. When the thing in the hallway didn't follow me, I crept backwards into the shower and hid for a little while longer. It was only after that I actually shut the door and did my business. When I was done, I washed my hands and ran back to my bedroom so fast that I didn't even bother to check if the shadowy figure was still there. I told my mom about it in the morning. I don't remember much of the interaction, but I remember that she just looked at me for a long moment. I couldn't tell what she was thinking. Eventually, she just said that she was glad I'd locked the door. Then we moved on. I never told her what actually happened. Obviously, being an idiot didn't end up with me being hurt, but I think I'd rather just save her the worry. Besides, at this point, the Hemet haunting has become a running inside joke in my family. If I'm being honest, though, I honestly don't think it was the house that was haunted. Enough strange things have happened other places for me to wonder if maybe whatever we saw there was haunting my family and not the house. I think it started following me first. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. I've got plenty more stories, and I'll probably send them in too. I know it's about time I told someone other than my long-suffering friends and family. I think that at this point, if they hear the words ghost or mysterious figure, they'll scream. Lots of love from somewhere in America, not Hemet, thankfully.
On Deck is built to back small businesses like yours. Whether you're buying equipment, expanding your team, or bridging cash flow gaps, On Deck's loans up to $250,000 help make it happen fast. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau and earning thousands of 5-star Trustpilot reviews, On Deck delivers funding you can count on. Apply in minutes at OnDeck.com. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Today's episode is sponsored by I Know What You Did Last Summer. Get it now on digital. When 5 friends inadvertently cause a deadly car accident, they cover up their involvement and make a pact to keep it a secret rather than face the consequences. A year later, their past comes back to haunt them, and they're forced to confront a horrifying truth. Someone knows what they did last summer and is hell-bent on revenge. As one by one, the friends are stalked by a killer, they discover this happened before, so they turn to 2 survivors of the legendary Southport Massacre of 1997 for help. Starring Madeline Klein, Chase Sue Wonders, Jonah Hauer King with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a perfect summer slasher, says Jordan Cruciolo of NPR. Your summer is not over yet. Don't miss a killer movie night at home. And our final story of the evening. This one is chilling. This was sent in by Caroline. Or Carolyn. We had this conversation already. We can't have it again. And she titled it, I don't get a lot of titles for the true stories, but this one she called The Night Visitors. It was June of 1999, and my husband, daughter, and I were moving into our new home. The Grand Center Hall Colonial boasted 3 bathrooms and 5 bedrooms. It was situated in a private corner lot. The neighborhood was just one town over from our old place, in an area with many farms and a rich history dating back to 1750, when the Nardikong, a branch of the Lenni Lenape, inhabited the land. The development was young at the time, and our home was just 7 years old. We even had a beautiful horse farm right behind us. Moving at 8 months pregnant with a 3-year-old was tough, but I was ready for the challenge. The new place was much larger than our last home and would give our oldest daughter and her new baby sister their own bedrooms. Our oldest daughter, Kirsten, took the room next to ours in the center of the house, and soon our new home felt perfect. Shortly after this, the night visitors began coming. One evening, a few months after settling in, I put my girls to bed with the usual routine of bath time, books, and lullabies. I considered myself fortunate because my children were great sleepers, and I took pride in establishing a consistent bedtime routine for them. After an exhausting day, I couldn't wait to climb into bed. Sleep came quickly that evening, but somewhere during the wee hours of the morning, I was suddenly awakened by screaming coming from my 3-year-old's room. I swung out of bed and ran on shaking legs to my daughter's room. Grabbing the knob, I twisted hard as I burst through the door and ran straight for her. She was sitting up in bed, screaming, drenched in sweat and shaking. I threw my arms around her and checked for signs of sickness or injury. Nothing. I tried comforting her to figure out what was going on. Through heavy sobs and terrified eyes, she managed, "They yell! They yell!" I continued to rock and calm her, knowing full well that she was destined to spend the night in my bed anyway. "Mommy, they yell!" Kirsten screamed again. Sitting there, my eyes finally adjusted to the semi-darkness of the room. A total sensation of unease suddenly wrapped around me. It was the feeling of someone standing directly behind me, their presence hovering just out of sight. An iciness covered me head to toe in goosebumps. This new eerie awareness pricked up my spine and my senses sharpened. I quickly scanned the room, not sure what I was looking for. The nightlight cast jagged shadows on the walls and ceiling, and a strange, heavy feeling hung in the air. It was then that I realized that both my daughter and I were shivering, not only from the unusual sensations in the room, but from the fact that this space was at least 5 degrees colder than the rest of the house. I grabbed my sobbing daughter and carried her to our room. Finally, she began to relax and calm down. Once she did, I asked her who was yelling in her room, thinking it was a bad dream that could be explained away. She looked at me with big, frightened eyes and said, "The mommies and daddies in my room." I have to admit, this answer gave me pause, making me question whether this was a nightmare. The same occurrence began happening at least once a week and continued for months. Bedtime became riddled with anxiety for not only my daughter, but me as well. I had trouble staying asleep as I was continually on edge, waiting for the screaming to start. Those screaming nights were always the same: the cold room, a sense of heaviness, and the feelings as if someone were watching me. Bit by bit, Kirsten was able to tell more about these episodic nightmares. One evening, as we ate dinner, she told us, "The mommies and daddies yell, and I don't know what they're saying. They go around my bed, and it's cold. They yell at the same time." Her words sent shivers down my spine and left me feeling absolutely unhinged. In my mind, she painted a picture of tall, ghostly, specter-like figures standing around her bed with unnatural postures and head tilts. These specters looked down at her and shouted all at once, creating a chaotic roar. That would be terrifying for anyone. What was puzzling to me was that it seemed as if she were describing ghosts, but how would a 3-year-old even know about ghosts? Who or what were these phantoms? Were they ghosts, or was it all just some sort of nightmare? My husband, being a tech guy who believes there's a logical explanation for everything, continually checked the vents in my daughter's room because he thought she had closed them during the day while she was playing. He was certain that that was why it was so cold only in her room and during these episodic dreams. However, the vents were always open and working. He continued to explore our heating system to no avail. We still had no answers. In an effort to understand what was going on with Kristen, I spoke with the pediatrician about her nightmares, and he assured me that it was all normal and that I should continue to keep her sleeping in her room. He advised us to establish a consistent bedtime and make the room safe and comfortable. Things we were already doing. All the adults in her life chalked it up to lots of changes. After all, moving to a new home and getting a new baby sister were very stressful events for anyone, let alone a 3-year-old. For a short time, I believed this, and I felt a little better. However, the episodic nightmares continued, and my daughter's vocabulary and ability to communicate also grew. After one nightmare, a few weeks later, she was able to tell even more. We learned that there were 3 mommies and 2 daddies who gathered around her bed. These mommies and daddies were always mad and yelled. She also told us that the mommies and daddies made her open her eyes when she didn't want to. And finally, in her about to have a temper tantrum voice, she yelled, "I don't like these night visitors." Thinking about her naming whatever this was, the night visitors, put me on edge. This was getting more disturbing by the day. After this discussion, I kept her in my room each night. However, after a few weeks, she wanted to go back to sleeping in her room. During this time, I joined my neighborhood bunco group. Women gathering to play cards, enjoy snacks, share wine, and gossip. It was during one of these gatherings that my neighbor, whom I'd never met before, nor had our children ever met, began sharing that her 4-year-old son was having terrible nightmares. She was at wit's end trying to figure out what was going on with him. Her son stopped sleeping at night, even when he slept in her room. As soon as it got dark, he grew so anxious that he refused to go into his room to get his pajamas or anything. He told her the big people, the night people, were in his bedroom at night. and he was terrified of them. He also told her that these night-night people always yelled at him. I'm sure I lost all color from my face. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was practically the same as my daughter's experiences. I shared what was happening in my home with her. As we compared notes, we realized that our homes had identical layouts and that our children were in the same center bedroom. We wondered if there was some weird energy there that was causing this, or could our new development be built upon some sacred ground where the energy had been disturbed? We had no idea what was going on, but honestly, it felt good to have someone else experiencing this too, someone with whom I could commiserate and brainstorm. A few months later, Kirsten was now 4, and her night visitor episodes had slowed down greatly. She was sleeping through the night in her room again. The baby, Brinny, was already 9 months old, and things were calming down in our house. My husband started a new job and was frequently traveling. It was during one of his absences that the night visitors came for the last time. The evening began normally with our bedtime routine. I was able to get both girls to bed uneventfully. The house was quiet and dark, perfect for a great night's sleep. I checked the baby's video monitor, and it showed a soundly sleeping 9-month-old in her crib. Feeling at peace, I made sure the volume was low and I flipped the screen off as I settled in for the evening and fell asleep quickly. At some point in the early morning hours, I was jolted awake by screams that pierced through the quiet of our home. Before I could react, a red-faced, screaming Kirsten scrambled into my bed. The mommies and daddies said something bad was going to happen to Brinny. She howled through tears. The mommies and daddies all talked at the same time and said Brinny was going to be hurt. She continued. I wrapped my arms around her tightly and rocked her, speaking softly to summon comfort and calm, even though a sense of foreboding and panic was heavy in the air. My heart was pounding, and I felt as if it were skipping beats. With a shaky hand, I reached over to my baby monitor, not sure what I'd find, flipped the picture on, and turned the sound up. Brinny was still sleeping peacefully. The live video and sound brought relief to both Kirsten and me, so I kept the monitor on with the sound turned up. After some time, Kirsten's sleep-deprived eyes began to close, and my heart rate lowered. Suddenly, a god-awful noise bounced off the walls of my bedroom, through the monitor, and down the hallway. It was a series of gagging, coughing, and gurgling sounds. Kirsten's eyes snapped open, and we sprinted to Bryn's room. Panicked, I threw open the nursery door. My 9-month-old was standing in her crib, shrieking and crying. Blood and vomit ran down Bryn's face and dotted the floor and crib. She was burning up with fever. I lifted her and raced to the phone, calling the pediatrician. Luckily, there was a doctor on call with whom I spoke. He advised me to get to the hospital, but that it wasn't something I needed to call for an ambulance. When I did finally arrive at the hospital, the doctors checked Bryn out. After all the blood work and testing, they determined that, yes, she was sick and had ruptured her esophagus, but thankfully, she'd be fine. I couldn't stop thinking about the night visitors and wondering what they were. One thing I knew for sure was that on that evening, I was grateful for them. If I hadn't turned up the sound on the baby monitor, I might have slept through Bryn getting so sick. That was the last time the night visitors came to our house. Clearly, my oldest daughter felt some sort of altered energy in our new home. I'm not sure if it was something about the energy in that center area of the house or if the homes were built on sacred land. Were the night visitors angry that we had infiltrated their home? Maybe they were mad at us at first, before learning to care for my family. Perhaps my youngest daughter, getting so sick, helped them feel compassion for us and face their own mortality. Or were they really helping us settle in and protecting us the entire time? The years have melted away, and my daughters are now grown women with little to no memory of this experience. It's still perplexing and chilling thinking back on those times. My oldest daughter continued to have other supernatural phenomena within those first few years of living in our new home. The night visitors weren't the only unexplainable experiences she had. Looking back, I now realize that the night visitors were the first, but they weren't the last, as she continued to be open to other experiences. Thank you so much, Caroline, for that story, and I think I would speak for most people listening right now that I wouldn't be opposed to hearing some more of the experiences your daughter had. If you're willing to share them, of course, no pressure. Please don't feel any pressure. I'm just curious. But thank you for that. That is so fascinating. And yeah, the idea that you happened to have or you were told to have the baby, sort of warned to have the baby monitor turned up is so interesting. And I wonder what that was. And the fact that the other family was having that happen as well. And did you ever find out if the other 4-year-old, like when his nightmares ended? I hope they ended. I hope they stopped at some point. But what happened with that? If there were any other experiences from that family? So many questions for you. But thank you so much for that submission. And thank you all who submitted today for your submissions. I really appreciate you sharing. I know sometimes it's hard to share these things because they're so strange. And again, a lot of high strangeness and ghostly tales are attached to death and grief. And I know it's big. It's not easy to share your own grief with strangers. And I appreciate you telling us your stories. And that is it for the show this evening. If you'd like to follow the show for more information, you can follow me on social media at scareyoutosleep, or you can follow me personally at Shelby B. Novak. I will also be at CreepIECon in Ontario, California this weekend. And so come by and see me. I'll be interviewing Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce for a creep panel. And there's another potential panel I'm on. I'm probably going to do it on Saturday, but the creep panel is on Friday night. I don't think tickets are sold out for CreepIECon, so if you're around Ontario or if it's not much of a drive for you, I highly recommend it. It's a really fun convention. It's not as overwhelming as Midsummer Scream can be. I know that can be a little overwhelming. And it's just the costumes are just so much fun. We will also have a Bloody Disgusting booth there, and I'll be there to chat and hand you. I got a bunch of stickers this time. Last time I ran out of stickers literally on Friday, which was not great, but now I have many stickers to hand out, and so I can hand out stickers. And for Scare You to Sleep, also some other shows, and I think we have some Bloody Disgusting stickers. Yeah, if we didn't run out at Midsummer Scream. We also have t-shirts and some Bloody Disgusting t-shirts and just some fun stuff. We have a little trick-or-treat section. Come grab some candy and play our claw machine. Take pictures with our background with Buzzy, which is what we call our buzzsaw guy that you probably see with all the Bloody Disgusting marketing. And yeah, come hang out in Ontario, California if you would like to, and hang with the fellow horror community. And let's see. Oh, if you have a story you'd like considered for the show, please send it to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. If you have a true story, please make sure you put that it is a true story in the subject line so I can put that in the right little file, and I would really appreciate that. And I put it out on social media, but again, I always say we, it's just me. Me and Clara, we're accepting kids' stories. So if you have a little one in your life, age 12 and under, who would like to write a little short, scary story to be on the show, I give it the whole shebang, all the sound effects and sound and music. I have a lot of fun with the kids' episodes because I get to use zanier, more cartoony sounds and music. So that's kind of a little treat for me every year as well. So if you have any little ones in your life, please, even if they're too young to type, you can have them dictate a story for you. I have a lot of that happening. I've had 4-year-olds send in stories because their parent or guardian had them dictate a story to them, and it's very cute. And literally, don't fix it. Don't feel like you need to make it sound cohesive, because when I get a story from like a 4 or 5-year-old that is just like bonkers, that it sounds like a fever dream, it's the best. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, it's kind of a fun exercise. The little ones get to just spout out this crazy imagination, and the older ones, I think, are honing their skills a little bit. We've had a few who are actually very serious about becoming horror authors when they get older, so they use it to hone their skills. So it's fun. I go from youngest to oldest for the episodes as well, if you want to listen to past years, and which is a little helpful for letting the little ones listen, because, you know, as you get older, you get a little more intense, but the little ones do get pretty violent, but it's more like little kid violence. So, you know, if you've got a little one and you're like, hey, I want to let you listen to this kid story, you know, when it hits the 10, 11-year-olds, you can just cut it off if you feel like maybe those stories are a little too intense, a little too real, you know. But yeah, we've had frogmen and vampires and zombies and let's see, what else? There have been so many cool creatures that these kids came up with. So again, if you have any little ones, deadline is October 1st. Please send it in to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. I will not accept them on DMs. I've had some problems in the past. People get a little angry and insistent. They will send it in after the deadline, and they won't even email it. They'll send it to me over DMs, and I just don't see it. I've explained this on the show before. Sometimes my DMs just don't get to me because they get put into Instagram, for instance. We'll put it into hidden requests, and I literally don't get a notification for it. I think hidden requests was created so you don't get like errant, gross stuff from creepers. But sometimes I'll go check out my hidden requests every once in a blue moon when I remember it exists, because it's not easy to get to. And it'll be like someone being like, hey, can you send over that chocolate chip cookie recipe? Like, thanks, Instagram. Yeah, that person was really trying to be weird to me, asking for a chocolate chip cookie recipe. Anyway, so yeah, no DMs, please. For the kids' stories, please send them to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. Please put in the subject line kids' story. Again, just like the true stories, I just like to keep them all in the right place so I don't miss any of them. Honestly, I don't want to miss any of them. So kids' stories, deadline October 1st. And what else? Patreon.com/scareyoutosleep. Thank you to all of you who signed up for that tier that is gone to become a ghost itself. And thank you for joining. And now, please join Patreon for ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, all that jam. And yeah. Oh, by the way, the person who sent in the story, can't remember which story it was now, it was the Glitch in the Matrix story. The Patreon app is kind of dumb. It's had issues. I've had other fellow podcasters tell me their patrons also have issues with it. But you can get the Patreon feed on different podcast apps. It has a special feed. You should be able to access it in your profile. I don't remember how it exactly. You can go, Patreon explains how to do it. But you can access the RSS feed and you can get it on different, whatever podcast app you like, including Spotify. You can get the Patreon feed on Spotify if you listen there, or whatever podcast app, because yeah, the Patreon app itself is not great. So I think that's all, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope to see some of you at not wrong convention at Creep IE-Con. It is pronounced Creep IE-Con. Everyone calls it Creepy-Con, which I understand. It's spelled like that. The IE means Inland Empire. And I guess if you're not from Southern California, you don't know what that is. So I get it. A lot of people who aren't from here have been calling it Creepy-Con, but it's actually Creep IE-Con. Creep Inland... wow. Creep Inland Empire Convention. That's the full title. That's its government name. But yeah, come by and see me. Again, if Midsummer Scream may be a little overwhelming, it is a little bit of a smaller convention, but it still has cool, like, haunted rooms and a big show floor and everything, and food trucks. You know how conventions are. That's what they got. And yeah, so come by, have a chat. I love to chat. And come see our panels. Very excited to talk to Patrick Bryce and Mark Duplass tomorrow. Very, very excited. So yeah, anyway, I will let you go. and go get some sleep. Sweet dreams.